You've been told billionaires are geniuses who create jobs and innovate.
Do billionaires create jobs? The answer is no.
They make people happy and they're inspirational. They're something to aspire to. But once you peel back the PR, you find that every single one is some sort of predator in a philanthropic mask. See, when you're a billionaire, you can do what you want. And that is a problem. There are obviously billionaires who are less than nice, to say the least, whether it's harvesting your private data, harvesting your piss in bottles, wait, nope, forcing employees to piss in bottles rather than take a bathroom break, union busting, wage theft, full-on tax evasion, owning and operating special private islands. That seems relevant right now. Or pretty much anything else you can think of. Not great. But what about the goody two-shoes, like the ones who are just good investors, or singers turned billionaires, or smart people who made software that changed the world? How are they evil? Well, they're all running the same scam, just not maybe as blatantly as others. So, let's expose what makes every billionaire evil by definition so that people can stop defending them and licking the mud off of their boots on the interwebs. And my comment section. See, in my last video, I received a bunch of awesome comments. Thanks for that. And then there were some other people who really liked what I had to say up until I called out all billionaires as evil. They felt quite the opposite. So are billionaires the good guys or the bad guys? As usual, when it comes to money, it's complicated. But by the end of this video, I'll unpack all of this for you so that you have a better understanding of how every billionaire is evil. You'll learn how billionaires game the system to amass huge fortunes and then manage to keep most of it for themselves, all while positioning themselves as generous philanthropists, which convinces people that they're great, inspiring people, and how dare I call them evil? Chapter 1. While some might have worked hard to get where they are, and often have done at least some good here and there, it's impossible to get to a net worth of over $1 billion without exploitation, backstabbing, aggressively taking out competitors, and other evil doings. And many times the ones suffering at their hands are you. Yeah, you watching the video right now, even if you're not an overworked, underpaid Amazon worker or something like that. But more on that in a bit. In order to understand why billionaires are evil and not just bad people, we need to know the difference between the terms bad and evil, of course. I mean, that's where we're starting, so let's do it. Bad generally describes something unpleasant, disappointing, or lacking in quality, which is, yeah, billionaires. The word evil, on the other hand, suggests a malicious or wicked intention, often causing significant harm or suffering. What? You don't think billionaires have malicious intentions? You don't think billionaires cause significant harm and suffering? Really? Oh, sweet summer child. That's so cute. Every billionaire, without exception, is built on a mountain of exploitation, lies, and often theft and human suffering. If you still don't think so by the end of this video, let me know in the comments, but back up your claims this time with facts. Let's get this straight. Philanthropy can be good on a small scale-ish, kinda, but most of the time, it just isn't, and it shouldn't even be needed in the first place. And this is related to taxes, so hold on for a moment. The laws and policies that structure charitable giving and philanthropy in the world today favor the interests of wealthy individuals rather than those who are actually in need. Philanthropy can have an important effect on society, but it doesn't do very much to solve the root cause of any of the problems that it's trying to solve. In his book, Just Giving: Why Philanthropy is Failing Democracy and How It Can Do Better, Rob Reich states, while a soup kitchen can feed the hungry, a church can shelter the homeless, and a nonprofit can teach children how to read, without changes in public policy, problems like hunger, homelessness, and illiteracy will continue to exist. So the fact that billionaires get good PR for having avoided taxes by selectively and slowly sharing their wealth with organizations through tax-deductible donations to those who they deem to be a good fit for their public perception is a problem in plain sight. Why? Because it's not up to single individuals to decide who gets what. Because that's what the taxes and government agencies are for. We wouldn't need philanthropy if billionaires paid their fair share back into society. Not through anything new, but through something quite old. Still taxes, just like the rest of us. Healthy governments are there to be supportive of the public good. The current corrupt administration of the United States would have you believe otherwise. But for the most part, governments are there for public good and to hold powerful people and corporations accountable. In contrast, privatization benefits the wealthy and oppresses the poor 100% of the time. And yeah, sometimes the oppression isn't as bad, so it's seen as good, but I'll let you figure out why that's a bad thing. Now, before we continue the video, I would love to clarify my stance a little bit. I'm against the extraordinary and unimaginably unequal distribution of wealth that should have never been allowed to happen in the first place. We should be looking for ways to correct this. We shouldn't be content that occasionally one of the benefactors of the system decides to give some of it back to the peasants. And for those in the comments who have been saying, and probably will continue to say, that I'm jealous. No, I am not. But having literally spent a month of my life filming a documentary about sustainable aid solutions in Malawi, Africa in 2012, and seeing just how unequitable the world is, I want less suffering in the world. I want people to be able to live full, meaningful, and wonderful lives that give back to their communities and society at large. But that's kind of hard to do if billionaires are constantly finding all of the loopholes in existence to avoid taxation. Like how the United States IRS records show billionaires use trusts that let them pass fortunes to their heirs without paying estate taxes. This costs the Treasury untold billions of dollars. But more on that tax avoidance later, and the loopholes that exist because billionaires make sure that they're there. So you have people like Bill Gates, whose foundation invests in literal private prisons and big pharma. The Waltons of Walmart keep wages so low that it is not uncommon for employees to rely on taxpayer-funded programs like food stamps, effectively subsidizing the company's business model. If your employees aren't able to put food on the table, your business model is just corporate welfare, people. So yeah, those are pretty evil things. And what does that make all billionaires? Say it with me. Evil! Yay! So no, billionaires' philanthropy isn't charity. It's just reputation laundering. These nice billionaires profit from the same exploitation as Musk and Bezos. The billions of dollars of taxpayer money that's paid by the 99%, so that the thousands of your hard-earned dollars deducted from your paycheck every month have helped and continue to help fuel these billionaires' businesses in the form of the very government handouts that they are against the 99% having. All of those corporate welfare handouts and your labor built their wealth, and in return, you get some crumbs, and you have to pay proportionally more taxes compared to your billionaire kings, by the way. I mean, I'm sure you've heard of it, but we're gonna get into it a little bit later. Their generosity is a tax shelter that protects their dynasties. You pay for it. That's what I'm on about here. Like, this goes a lot deeper. This isn't some Marxist thing or communism. What I'm talking about here actually happened in the United States of America in the biggest economic boom ever, when billionaires were taxed over 90%. Before we get into that, though, we have a few other things to cover. Like, I've also got to say this right at the top here. A lot of these billionaires wouldn't be billionaires if it weren't for public infrastructure to begin with. From the taxpayer dollars that funded the development and creation of the literal internet, to the geographic infrastructure like roads and highways, rails, postal grids, and more. They are all paid for by the taxes that they're so keen to avoid. The defenders of billionaires argue with the same points so often that I sometimes think that billionaires pay into some sort of bot army subscription that targets people who even remotely talk anywhere close to badly about them. Anyway, these people, or bots, or whatever, argue that the billionaires deserve wealth because they add so much to society, like job creation. Amazon actually does employ a lot of people, over 1.5 million people around the world. Or Walmart, with its over 2 million employees around the world. But are those jobs really new or just shifted from the thousands of small retailers that have since gone out of business during Amazon's rise to dominance? Or when Walmart comes to town and wipes out every other small business, often destroying towns in the long run? While there's no way to exactly assign the amount of blame to the other company's demise, there is no doubt that huge companies like Amazon and Walmart steal customers away from smaller companies. Companies that make towns run, the family-owned businesses. We've all heard that before, but it's the real deal. So when people say employ, what are they really meaning? Just shifting from small business to massive conglomerates? And whether you're a billionaire business owner or a billionaire hedge fund manager, the easiest way to make money is to ensure that you're hiring as few people as possible at the lowest wages possible. So really, is that a good argument for billionaires? I mean, I don't think so. While we're talking about one end of the spectrum here, which is super low wages, let's go to the other end of the spectrum because we really need to grasp the enormity and the scale of what a billion is for this whole video to make sense. 1 million seconds is just 12 days. And 1 billion with a B seconds is 31 years. The scale difference is mind-blowing. To put this into perspective, if you worked for every single hour of every single day since Jesus was freaking born and you made $10,000 per hour, you still wouldn't earn what Bezos makes in a single month. Oh my God, it's so bad. This is what people mean by fuck you money. This is an amount that is incomprehensible. And yet, as an Amazon worker who has to pee in a freaking bottle because they can't take breaks, or as Walmart employees who have to rely on food stamps because the pay is so little, according to billionaire bootlickers, billionaires aren't evil. Because, what was that definition again? Evil. Morally reprehensible. Arising from actual or imputed bad character or conduct. Causing harm. The fact of suffering or misfortune and wrongdoing. Something that brings sorrow, distress, or calamity. Like, I'm not seeing how they're not evil here. I'm not getting how people don't like me calling billionaires evil. Because by all definitions, they are. So now that you understand the scale of 1 billion and how billionaires hoard their wealth while being entirely aware and okay with the working conditions and minimal pay of the employees who make their immense wealth possible in the first place, let's move on to the next chapter. How do these billionaires hide this theft? Meet their favorite trick. Buy, borrow, die. While you pay about 30 to 50% of your lifetime income in taxes, billionaires like Musk pay less than 8%. Here's how you do it. Step 1, buy assets or own them. You start a company, you do that. Good job, but here's the next step. Borrow against those assets at, let's say 1% interest because you're wealthy, so you get great interest rates because of your wealth. Step 3, live on tax-free loans, which are absolutely, definitely not income. Why would you even think that, even though you're living on it? But, Shh. Step 4, die. Pass those assets to your heirs with zero or minimal capital gains tax through loopholes designed by the wealthy for the wealthy to preserve wealth at the top because, of course, they're the ruling class. They're wealthy. They're the ultra wealthy, I should clarify. A $10 billion loan only costs around $100 million in interest. But selling $10 billion of stock would cost them over $2 billion in taxes. This little borrowing against the stock scheme is legalized theft. It results in them hoarding wealth that could literally fix a lot of the world's problems that we have globally. Instead, they lobby for more wealth hoarding, tax breaks, and unimaginable power. Unimaginable because a lot of this happens behind closed doors at government levels. Yay, lobbying! Speaking of lobbying, billionaires aren't just rich, they're unelected kings of the modern era. And I say modern era because this is historically a fairly modern issue, at least when it comes to the enormity of this scale of wealth. They spend more on one lobbying effort than you'll earn in 50 lifetimes. This means that the USA is now just an oligarchy, not a democracy. And it's become plainly obvious with the current US administration. That's not the topic of this video, though. In contrast, in, let's say, the Netherlands, individuals can donate to political parties, of course, but there's a limit. Donations are capped at a cumulative maximum of 100,000 euros per year. There are also restrictions on donations from foreign sources, which is significantly different from the United States, where campaign financing is much more complex and influenced by large sums of money, like from super PACs and corporations. So while billions of dollars circulate the US elections, Dutch campaign costs, for example, are limited to a few million euros. Billionaires are not civic-minded. They're colonizing democracy. Or as Ellie Cordova eloquently puts it,
a budgetary boon for billionaires, or a brutal butchering of benefits for the bottom bracket.
A lot of bees.
Or maybe a blight on the biosphere for our barren buddies' bottom lines. I guess I'm just bedeviled by this blunderbuss of a budget bill which bears the blatant branding of all the back-scratching backdoor billionaire buy-ins that broker tax breaks for big business while ballooning the budget, blowing up bipartisan breakthroughs, and bankrupting the already broke. But hey, you can bet your bottom Bitcoin there'll be a backlash back home for all these billionaire bootlickers, so buckle in, bitch.
Billionaires fund politicians who slash corporate taxes while defunding schools. Why? Well, an educated public might start asking questions. Can't have that. They might even ask, why do we accept a world where just a few men own more than half the planet? Wow, great question. In the 1930s, the world suffered through the Great Depression. Yet, over the next 20 years, the United States essentially birthed a new middle class. Although, you might not know it, there is no middle class. That doesn't exist. There are just two types of people in this world. There are workers and owners. No others. By the 1960s, home ownership was up, at least for white nuclear families. Worker earnings skyrocketed, America's trade union movement was booming, and the rich were forced to share the wealth with the workers, who were the ones creating it in the first place. And still are to this day. Again, this is in the United States of America and is history, not fiction, and not in some commie country that a lot of naysayers would bring up. And it worked. This massive mid-century labor surge changed the face of the American political landscape. This was the golden age of the middle class. Environmental protection laws, women's rights, and equal rights all flourished when the middle class was empowered. It happened because union-backed lawmakers helped pay for new programs by raising taxes on America's wealthiest individuals. Between 1940 and 1960, the federal tax rate on income in the nation's top tax bracket consistently hovered around 90%. 90. Not like 19, 90%. However, as the wealthy do, the rich began chipping away. In 1963, President John Kennedy, himself the product of one of America's grandest fortunes, asked Congress to drop the nation's top tax rate down to 65%. Quite different from 90. Congress would mostly oblige, and that top tax rate would sink to 70% in 1965. Then in the 1980s, Ronald Reagan and his friends on Capitol Hill would shove that rate down even further, first to 50% and then to 28%. Over the recent decades, Congress after Congress has cut taxes on the richest people and corporations. Billions upon billions of dollars that would otherwise have gone to the federal till for spending that could help the rest of the public get ahead. Just like in that grand era of the 1940s to the 1960s. Obviously, there were tons of other issues going on, but you cannot deny that taxing the rich got a lot of people ahead, aside from just a select few. I mean, even nowadays in 2025, there's only like 3,000 people. When you're saying things against billionaires, you're talking about like 3,000 people. Like, that's not a holistic approach to things. Ugh. After all of this, you might be wondering why Taylor Swift and Oprah are included on my declaration of evil billionaires. And it's because there's a scale of evil. But if you've been listening, the fact that they exist as billionaires in this world of suffering is evil in its own right. But let me remind you of a few things that solidify my stance on this. Taylor Swift profits by selling tickets and merch to blatantly manipulated young fans.
Instead of establishing boundaries with her fans to avoid fostering intense parasocial relationships between Swifties and herself, she cultivates them, kindling the delusional feelings of friendship that her fans have towards her in order to sell concert tickets, albums, and merch.
Tons of artists do the same, but the pretenses are very different.
Taylor's hardcore fans really do believe they are this close to being considered her friends. Taylor has stoked the flames of the parasocial relationship with her and her audience throughout the course of her career, and dare I say, it's evil genius. Remember when she was inviting fans to her home and baking them cookies and letting them listen to the album before anybody else? Just by doing that with a small group of fans, she planted the seed for millions that any day now they could be plucked out of obscurity and become Taylor Swift's friend.
I'm not against selling tickets at all. That's how exchange of currency for services works. I get that, that's fine. But her fans believe that she's just like the middle class. Her songs are about that. And I believed that too until I started doing some digging myself. Anyway, she's not just like the middle class, not like the rest of us. She was raised never knowing what hard times were. See, Taylor Swift is the daughter of a bank president, who's descended from a bank president, descended from a bank president, descended from a bank president. That's how many generations of financial tycoons she is from. To be clear, getting people to blame themselves for not succeeding and to keep struggling within a system that has failed them is one of the most despicable ways that the ruling class can dominate a population. And that's what she does when she says things like,
I want to say to all the young women out there, there are going to be people along the way who will try to undercut your success or take credit for your accomplishments or your fame. But if you just focus on the work and you don't let those people sidetrack you, someday when you get where you're going, you'll look around and you will know that it was you and the people who love you who put you there. And that will be the greatest feeling in the world.
it poisons people's hearts and minds against themselves and prevents them from actually addressing the actual causes and people responsible for society's economic and social problems, because it's often impossible to chase your dreams if the ball of chain of debt, responsibilities, and the ever-increasing cost of living is holding you back and doesn't even let you have any free time to figure out what your dream once was. It's like a carrot on the end of a stick that you're chasing while meandering along a treadmill of work, and Tay-Tay says, chase your dreams, guys. That's not how it works. She was not one of us. She didn't know what it was like to struggle with money problems growing up. But there's the guys that she did know that. I'm not saying you shouldn't work hard and that the world owes you something. It doesn't. Success isn't often handed to people. And you do have to work hard. And if you aren't lucky enough to be dealt a great hand in life, you'll have to work even harder. Those who are dealt a great hand with a healthy, stable, rich, educated, safe, and powerful family like Taylor Swift just have it easier compared to the opposite. You can't say otherwise. That's just the truth. And what about Oprah Winfrey? What are her thoughts on taxation? Well, she's always been against taxation, and in 2011, she let that slip out.
The most pain I feel is, my accountants will tell you this, every time I write a check to the IRS.
At the time, her net worth was estimated to be about $2.7 billion. So yeah, not 100 billion or something like that, but over $1 billion. So in this one interview, she's asked a bunch of different questions. But there's the answer to one of those questions in particular that sounds impressive at the surface.
You still write all the checks?
100. I don't write all of them now.
How many do you sign?
I sign all the checks that are over $100,000, and that's a lot.
Go on, how many?
Of checks. Oh, probably, several hundred.
Of over $100,000 each?
Yeah, it would knock your socks off.
Okay, that's reasonable for a very wealthy person. Okay, to the average person hearing this, that's like, wow, that's amazing. Great job, Oprah. But doing some napkin math here, based on her several hundred comment, let's say 200 to 400 of these $100,000 checks comes to about $20 million to $40 million. Again, that's a lot. Let's also assume that some of these checks going out the door are more than $100,000. So we'll double our highest number and then round up to, I don't know, like $100 million, which again seems like a lot. But at that point in time, when she said those words, like I said before, she was worth around $2.7 billion. So that's just 3.7% of her money going back to the tax basis. So the equivalent to this is making $50,000. And when tax time comes, this person pays $1,850 or 3.7% instead of the normal $7,800 or 18% of your earnings, let's say. Is that fair? I don't know. And then you have her saying that.
The most pain I feel is, my accountants will tell you this, every time I write a check to the IRS, it's a ceremony. They come in, for years they came in with wine, now they come in with tequila. It's a tequila signing ceremony.
What has been the most painful check you've ever had to write to the IRS? The one that's caused you most personal agony.
You're good. You think I'm going to give you the number.
See, these billionaires are on a whole other level from us mere peasants. I don't care if you're a multimillionaire, you're still a peasant compared to them.
We have created the People's Fund of Maui that will put money directly in the hands of the people who need it right now. So if you send a donation, just click where you see below and send a donation.
The number one need is money.
Is money.
In hand.
And so people being able to have their own agency, being able to make decisions for themselves about what they need and what their family needs, that's our goal, is to get that to the people now. And so we appreciate any support that you can give.
You can't defend them because even Oprah can't make her donations and charities sound good compared to how much she's avoiding and giving back to the rest of us and paying her fair share. Now just think of the billionaires who are worth so much more than her in the hundreds and 200s and 300s and $400 billion net worth. Of course, they're all evil. And here you are complaining that the roadways you drive on are full of potholes. You don't think that more taxation on the ultra wealthy wouldn't fix the roads that you drive on? The bridges that are crumbling across America? And what about giving some love to Canadian billionaires? Similar vibes as we take after the US in a lot of things, but this would be an entire other video. What I can say is that the Canadian David Thompson, who's chairman of the Thomson Reuters Corporation, is worth around $55 billion and is the 22nd richest person globally. And although Thompson has rarely given interviews to the press and maintains a low public profile, back in 2006, he had a very interesting little tidbit of wisdom from the inside of the business world. The only substantial interview Thompson has given was to James Fitzgerald, who wrote a book about the elite private school, Upper Canada College, they both attended in Toronto. According to a July 3rd, 2006 article in the New York Times, in his comments to Mr. Fitzgerald, David had little positive to say about many people in the business world. In the interview, Thompson said, when you try to live a more balanced life, traditional businessmen think that you are not a real man. But who is not the real man? You are telling me you have not taken a weekend with your wife. You have no spare time that you use constructively. You do not have any hobbies. You do not know how to spell Mozart. And here you are telling me that I am weak? I wonder, all these years later, how he feels. Okay. Time for some solutions. We, the 99%, built their wealth, the billionaires' wealth. And we, the 99%, can dismantle it. Kinda. Ish. But we have to, seeing as billionaires will continue to game the system and take advantage of the 99%, privatizing the gains and socializing the losses, time and time again. See, capitalism isn't perfect. I don't think anything's perfect. But it's what we have right now, and it can be great when properly regulated to ensure a level playing field for all. Labor laws and environmental laws and everything else that makes up a functioning country. The problem is that we're not operating in a regulated capitalist environment. We're living in a rigged capitalistic environment where a handful of companies do not have to follow the rules. But you, the little guy, you have to follow the rules. Billionaires buy politicians to ensure they always win, and you always lose. That's not fair. That's evil. But people have to stop bowing down just to worship and lick that shit off of billionaires' boots. Like, I'm still amazed at how many people hit up my comment section in the last video in order to defend billionaires. You think you're gonna become one? No, you're not. Like I said, millionaires, multimillionaires, and billionaires are on a whole different scale. Because of inflation, most of us nowadays will make more than $1 million throughout our lifetime. I know, it might sound weird, but it's definitely gonna happen. Depending on your situation and how lucky you are and how you choose to spend and save and invest your money, you'll be a multimillionaire too. But as I've mentioned so many times now, millionaires are not the same thing as billionaires, who have 1,000 times more wealth than a millionaire. The ongoing transfer of generational wealth doesn't have to continue to be a vacuum sucking wealth upwards. The vast 1940s to 1960 expansion of America's middle class didn't just happen out of thin air. Advocates for greater equality made it happen. They battled for greater equality. How about we end on a story that I can get behind? About a millionaire who's able to change people's lives without needing to amass so much that he becomes a billionaire. Sadio Mané from Senegal is one of the world's highest paid soccer players according to Forbes in 2024. He's worth over $50 million. So he isn't hurting and definitely is rich. But he seems to really want to give back, even though he's only a multi-millionaire. This is his philosophy. Why would I want 10 Ferraris, 20 diamond watches, or 2 planes? What will these objects do for me and for the world? I was hungry and I had to work in the field. I survived hard times, played football barefooted. I did not have an education and many other things. But today, with what I earn thanks to football, I can help my people. I built schools, a stadium. We provide clothes, shoes, food for people who are in extreme poverty. In addition, I give 70 euros per month to all people in a very poor region of Senegal, which contributes to their family economy. I do not need to display luxury cars, luxury homes, trips, and even planes. I prefer that my people receive a little of what my life has given me. Now, I'm sure he's not perfect, because no one is. And he probably has a PR team protecting him too. But right now, in this current situation, with what he does, he's a pretty good embodiment of what these other billionaires could do without having to take a huge hit out of their everyday life. After a certain amount of wealth, you have everything you need, and it's about what you can give back to the world, to your community. So back to you, who's watching this video right now and being like, well, what can I do? Well, if you're interested in dismantling this faux free market capitalism or fighting back or something like that, you first need to take control of your own life. It's hard to make change or have the necessary time to think about issues that are bigger than yourself and your daily life when you're trying to figure out how to put food on the table. So first, you have a few things to focus on. Upping your own income as much as you possibly can, paying off debts and reducing your spending, and actually saving and investing your own money. Don't forget also being involved in your community. That can help you in so many different ways. Your local community or online communities. Just have a community that can support you and you can help out as well. It's a lot of give and take. Communities are great, but remember not to get overwhelmed. You can only control what you do and how you choose to live your life. Ignore others and focus on building up yourself and your own community instead of just spending everything you make so that you can just keep up with the Joneses. I actually made a video about why everyone you know is secretly drowning in debt that you should probably check out. That should be over right here. Once you figure out your own money problems, you can then have the mental bandwidth to come up with solutions for life's greatest questions and problems. Oh, and by the way, before I go, on a more serious note, I am 100% of sound mind, not suicidal, and in great health. If anything does happen to me, like my untimely death, in the near future, well, let's just say it probably wasn't an accident. And that's that. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you like, subscribe, throw fists in the comments, and check out my Patreon for early releases, behind the scenes content, and more.